on Saturday, 30th of August, 1997, in the afternoon at about 1:20 p.m. We're looking at the jail, 109 Pine Street, Tawana, Pennsylvania. Getting an idea of its outside dimensions and the lines. We're making some observations looking at the roof, because of course there was a tower at one time built. The structure was in 1871 and 72, and then demolished, I do believe, in the early 1950s. And as near as we can tell looking at the old pictures, the tower was over the cell block area. Appears to be square on top of the roof in between the chimneys, and you can see the 4 chimneys that still exist. So we're trying to determine whether or not the roof lines as you see them now are the original roof lines. It may be that when they took the tower off, they had to change the roof line over the house part in front. That's the piece on the north, which is directly on Pine Street, and then reconfigure the roof. You will note that the shingles are now asphalt shingles. The original roof may have been slate or metal or a tile, and we don't know exactly what the original composition of the roof is at this time. But certainly asphalt shingles were not of the 1870s. All right. You will note over the main entrance to the jail, to the facility, 1871 for the beginning of construction. The jail wasn't actually occupied by the sheriff and a few prisoners until August of 1873. The lot was purchased for $7,000, which at the time caused some controversy because that was probably several times its value. But the whole construction of the jail cost approximately $65,000. I'm amazed at the speed at which they put this together. It was in May of 1871 that the county commissioners decided that they really did need to go forward with a new jail structure. And it was within a matter of weeks for the bids to be submitted, and Avery Frink from Susquehanna County submitted the plan, and actually, because the original contractor backed out, he was the superintendent and in charge of the construction. Main entrance, and you can see there was an octagonal window on each side with bars, and the door, the main door was also barred. You can see the 4 spindles here, and I do believe that down in the basement cell block they do have the metal door that went over this. So there was a double door, a wooden door, and then barred. And you can see the bars in the side windows here. So there was a lot of tight security on the facility. And the walls are very thick, and you can kind of get that idea by just looking at these windows. On the house part, it's not quite the 3 feet that you have in the cell block area, but still the thickness of the walls is substantial to hold the weight of the entire building. The construction, the basement level, and you can note the windows as they go up the street. You see less and less of the window. They built, or they constructed the facility here. It's on bedrock, I'm told. You have 4 windows on the main floor, and then you have 5 windows up on the upper level on the 2nd story, which was the quarters of the sheriff and the living area on this front portion of the entire facility. It's approximately 60 feet long, east to west, and then about 30 feet wide, this front portion. 4 doors into the facility. This door goes into the basement level, into what is now, what was the kitchen. Of course, we saw the main door. There's a similar door as to this on the main level on the other side, and then there is a door that goes into the cell block area, into the basement level in the back. So there were 4 entrances into the facility. On this side, you have the courtyard. It's walled in. It's not quite as thick as the downspouts are constructed of copper, as you can see. I don't know if that was an original fixture back in the 1870s or if that was added on later. I suspect, though, it is original with the construction in the 1870s. It goes up. You'll note the bars on the upper levels in the living area. The main floor was primarily used, I believe, for office space for the sheriff and so on to conduct the business of the jail. Stone used in construction is from the Millstone Creek area down by Weston in the southern part of Bradford County. And later some of that same stone was used for the construction of the third courthouse in 1897 and 98. You can see the outlines and beginnings of the main part of the cell block area. It's about 50 feet wide and approximately 60 feet long going north to south. A tremendous amount of stone was used in the construction of this facility, and I'm trying to figure out how it got here, perhaps along the railroad and then hauled up by wagon. So it was quite an undertaking. Actually, construction proceeded much faster than anticipated.
All right, I'm going.
It's an interesting dimension. The cell block itself on the back side is 49 feet wide. That's going east to west. And why it wasn't 50 feet or 45 and they chose 49, I don't know. But it is 3 feet thick on the outside diameter all the way around the cell block area and then all the way up. The stones look much bigger and more substantial than you see underneath the ivy than the stones on the courtyard or the exercise yard to the right. Those stones are smaller. Of course, the wall is not quite as thick, but you can see it's a light sandstone on the primary structure. Big blocks. Whoops. I'm coming in from the northeast side into the basement door into what was the kitchen area. Quite a large room, the largest room on the basement level, about 26 by 22. Has a double door. You're looking at cabinets and so forth. Quite a large room where they prepared the meals for. There was 30 cells, so there could have been a prison population of perhaps 60 or 70 people. The range was over here. And we pan around to the door that went out to the exercise yard. You can see that's quite substantial. And this is the only entrance from the ground level into the courtyard. It's approximately 35 feet long and about 20 feet wide. This is the site of the last public execution in Bradford County on the 26th of July, 1905, when Bigler Johnson was hung in the courtyard, and newspaper accounts say 200 people were in attendance, and that was the last public execution. Off to the side of the kitchen, you have what may have been 2 cells, but in later years were used as pantries for the kitchen. And this is where your foodstuffs were stored. And it's approximately 8 feet wide and 11 or 12 feet long. And there's from the kitchen area, which is the northeast corner of the facility, across a short hallway into the other large room in the living area, which was used as a dining area for the prisoners. This room is a little bit smaller than the kitchen area, but it's approximately the same, about 24 feet by 20 feet or so. You will note the 2 windows to the outside, that's the street level looking north. And the last window in the northwest corner is really covered up by the sidewalk now. Very little light would have gotten in here from the outside. Only a little bit from this window. So we don't know if over time the street level got raised up or what the story is. In later years, the county used this to store election machines. And we're told, and we have two examples still here, we're told that Bradford County was the first county in Pennsylvania to have electric voting machines for all the municipalities. Of course, it didn't really work out too well. Dining area into the short hallway that leads to the stairs that go up to the next floor. And then just off the hallway is a door that went to 3 cells. The one all the way in the back later became the maintenance room, where you had your electrical pieces and you had your water gauges and all manner of mechanical things. And then the other door goes to 2 cells that were used as trustee cells. You will note that there's a lot of paint that's flaking, and I don't know if this is part of the renovation in 1950, because some of the accounts say that most of the cell block areas were whitewashed, but what we have on there now is indeed paint in the cell block area. The entrance of the cell block area at the basement level, behind me is the house, if you want to think of it, on the northern part of the facility, the structure that's about 60 feet by 30 feet. So I'm walking into the cell block area, and this is a typical door that would have been down here. It is very heavy wood, and it's got an iron or a piece of metal plate on one end of it. Very substantial. It is painted on the outside, and it says, "Keep locked at all times." So this would have been locked when residents or prisoners were indeed here. In the corner, you have a toilet. The sign says J. Henry for John Henry. A little bit of prison humor. There are 10 cells down here in the basement level. They're arranged about 5 on each side. There's fewer cells than upstairs because, of course, behind me on the right, over in here are the 2 trustee cells. And on my left are the 2 pantry cells. But we're looking at the wall out here in the cell block proper, and there's no evidence that there were doors to those cells and that they were later filled in and used for some other purpose. So at the present time, we're thinking it was probably constructed that way from the very beginning. I'm going to walk around and get into the back. I'm heading south, and you have on both sides the cells. Recreation is Bradford County's version of the peach basket for indoor basketball. The cells are all about the same size. They're about 11 feet, 11 and a half feet long, and between 7 and 8 feet wide. It's approximately 27 inches thick between the cells, the walls, but you'll note the doorway to each cell, they're very substantial because you had a door to the cell block area, and there was another door that was over here into the cell. So each cell had 2 doors. Now this was not an original cell door, but you can get the same effect here. There would have been a door to the front, and then a door that was going into the cell, and you will note there was a thing that could be slid for observation. I don't know if I can actually slide that. It's not, but there's down here.
It's dark.
It's dark, okay. There is a lock here, and this could be unlocked, and I'm assuming that the food, or if it could be served here or something passed back and forth. On the west side of the basement area, you have 5 cells. One was a security cell, one was for storage. This was for storage of prisoners' belongings. The next cell was for laundry, and then in the corner was for an electric furnace. Of course, this is later on. On the other side, on the east side in the corner, is the boiler, the steam boiler, but originally that is the dungeon. When you read the newspaper account, it talks about a very dark, forbidding cell with only a 2-inch pipe to the outside, not a regular window into the cell, only a 2-inch pipe, and that was called the dungeon. That would have been the, whatever you call it, for the prisoners. All right, and then 4 more cells. One was used for tools later on, so I think that had to do with the fluctuating prison population. But again, 10 cells originally in the basement for prisoners.
I'll go over here and I can show this one door.
Oh, okay, the door, yes. You can really see the lock, and there really is a flap.
Can you open that? Or not?
I can't open it,
Okay.
but you can see where the lock is, and this would be
Up the door itself.
open the door itself into the cell. Your typical cell, and this one even still has a bathroom and a sink. Now, in 1871, the original construction, they did have a water pipe into each cell, but of course these toilets would have been a feature that would have been added later. And you can see ductwork for heating would have been a later feature also. I can We're not on camera.
Yes, we are.
This is the entrance to the outside, a low door, and we have 3 steps down into the basement level. So I would assume that the provisions are brought in this way or something, or for security purposes, but it is very tightly constructed. I'm coming from the cell block area in the basement, walking up the flight of stairs to the main level. You can see everything is very substantial. I'm going to head into the lobby area where the prisoners would have been reseated. This is the door to the west, the 4th door. Has glass, but it's very well secured for ventilation and so on. They would have brought the prisoners in through this door so that they could properly receive them. And I'm going to very slowly walk into the office, in the guard office, and then the room where they did the security room check. This is a series of 3 small rooms. Again, this would have been an office area and a guard office. A distinct architectural feature here is the round arch, and you will see there are hinges on both sides of the arch, so it would have been a hinged door, and it's very thick in between here, and I suspect it's at least 24 inches or 27 inches, so very solid construction. No hinges on this side. This would have been a guard office. They would have had a desk in here and files, and they kept keys in here, and in a bit we'll look at that. And in the back we have another small room, and we have a bathroom in here and a shower. So the prisoner would have been brought in, take his clothes off, had a shower, and put into, I suspect, some type of a prison uniform or prison garb, and then the paperwork as for the processing of the prisoner would have taken place in these areas. And then we will walk out very slowly. Here's an example of one of the key boxes, and this may be a key to a typical cell. I'm not quite sure at this point, but it is quite different than the kind of keys that we're used to. They are numbered. I can see up through 10, and then another 10 spaces, so quite a few keys. and then there's a key box on the other side. We do have a mailbox here, I assume for prisoners' outgoing mail. The guards would have taken the prisoner back through here, through a hallway that's between the living portion and where we have the warden's office and so forth. And then we get into the cell block area on the main floor, and we'll come into that from another direction. Processing office, and I'm going to walk over towards the main double doors into the cell block area on this level. And this is a wooden, actually a metal door on both sides, very solid. And then the interior door, of course you'll notice the peephole. The interior door, very heavy metal. And that puts us into the lobby area. The prisoners actually would have been, after processing, brought through here into this door into the cell block area. So some of the distinctive features would be, again, you'll notice the security, another thick metal door, heavy glass, and what you have is 3 cubicles for visitors to come in and talk with the prisoners. You can see there's 3 rows of 5 holes for 15 holes, and they can look through the very thick plate glass and then talk back and forth through the holes. So here we have, it's almost like for a phone booth kind of a thing. So 3 people at a time could visit with the prisoners. And again, here's another interesting feature. It's kind of an area that looks into one of the cells that was really the shower room. But again, everything is very tight security, and we have the metal door, and again, the holes for communication that go into the cell block area. On this level, you have 11 cells. Should I back myself up and we could... I'm coming into the cell block area on the main floor. There are 11 cells on this level. Starting in the corner, on the northeast corner, you have what was later used as a shower cell. And it's tile, got a tile floor and everything. And this was used for exercise equipment, this cell. And then you really get to cell number 1. Most of the cells have a number painted over top the door. What we have here is your typical outside door into your cell block area, made of wood, and sometimes it's faced with iron or steel, very substantial. But your typical inside door is what we have on cell number 1. And you can see the crisscrossed metal, very heavy duty. And you can see around the framing, the heavy framing on the cell itself, and the very substantial where the pins would fit for the doors, how they would hinge here and then down there. Again, the door, or the thickness between of the walls is about 27 inches, 30 inches, or so forth. So there is a lot of stonework here. This cell was used as a prison library store, and it provided the access into the courtyard on the outside. So the prisoners housed on this level, that's how they would gain access to the courtyard. They would not have to go through the main building part. They would go through this cell. So maybe early on that was used as a typical cell if you had some overflow. These are the stairs to the upstairs. This is the only way that you can access the upper level. And there's approximately 10 cells on that level. And you must come up by way of these metal stairs. You can see the substantial construction with the steel I-beams. And again, there would have been a great deal of weight to the building itself. The description of the early construction says that the floor of each cell was one large flagstone, and then wood planks put over that, and it says that the ceilings were constructed the same. So again, very heavy duty. Now, a later addition, after the tower was removed, you can look all the way up to the roof and you can see the grating and then the skylight up above. Again, that is a feature probably from 1950, and it was used to bring in light. I do believe that's where the tower was located, but it's possible that it was located a little further north. I'm just not quite sure at this point. I don't think that skylight was an original feature of the facility back in 1871. So again, there's 11, to recap it, there's 11 cells on this floor, and there were approximately 10 on the basement level, and then there's about another 10 up on the main level of the cell block, in the middle of the cell block, at the bottom of the stairs to the upper level. The interior dimensions of the cell block area are 56 feet by 16 for about 900 square feet. Now directly behind me are the 3 windows for the visitors, and there is a surveillance camera down here, which would have been an additional feature, a security feature from later years. And there's also an electrical alarm system in the guard office. Again, additional features. So I'm going up the 18 steps to the next cell block level, where we have 12 cells. In the basement level, you had 10. On the floor below, 11. And here's an additional 12 cells. In the corner on the northeast, you have cell number 20, which was the TV lounge. Of course, that would have been a later addition from the I suspect, 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. And then the sequencing of the numbers starts with number 9 in order, 10, 11, and 12. We're going to look at cell number 12. Again, your typical interior door, metal, lattice. When I'm going to walk in, I have to stoop. The dimensions are about 11 feet, and I'll talk lower because I can hear my own echo, and about 7.5 feet wide. Note the windows. On the east side, on this floor, the windows are narrow and vertical. We'll contrast that with the west side, where the window slits are horizontal. Now, if I was a prisoner, I would want to be on this side of the facility because you can look down onto the main street of the town, and at least you could watch what was going on in the town, pedestrians going by, and the normal street activity. It would provide you with something to do, contrasted with a cell on the other side, on the west side. But first, we've got the door to the outside. Again, very heavy-duty metal. The outside door is constructed of wood, and that goes on to the fire escape level. But the cells on the west side, 14 and 15, in sequence, the same shape, but again, note the windows. They're higher up and they're horizontal. The people who would be in this side of the facility are going to have much less to do. The bathrooms, the toilets, each cell had a toilet. They're just inside the door, and of course they're in the corners like this, closer to the center of the facility because you have your interior walls to work with for your plumbing. Again, they were probably cold in the winter and very, very warm in the summertime. I'm going to walk down towards the TV cell. And what I regard is the most prevalent architectural feature in the whole facility is the peephole in the center. Looks like a huge cone shape. And on the other side, we'll look through this. That's so that the warden, who had his living quarters on this floor, could open that and look in here, and you can instantaneously see everything that was going on this floor and then down into the next floor. Cells number 20 are double in size, and that would have been the TV cell. And we even have a double cot here. Many of the cells could accommodate 2 people, and I'm sure they did. But again, in later years, this was the TV lounge. And I don't think at one time that it was 2 cells. I think it was always this big. But again, the 2 vertical windows. So you have 12 cells on this level. Number 20 is a double cell, and number 18 is also a double cell. The rest of them are the smaller 11 feet by 7.5 feet cells, approximately 80 square feet each. The single cell, and what you have in this area, it's quite spacious at the head of the stairs. It's almost about 200 square feet, so this is an area that we could possibly use for displays. We're thinking about using this floor and the area behind me in the living quarters for our museum, for our displays. And this would provide us with quite a bit of flexibility and allow us for very good traffic flow with people on tours, and it's even possible for self-guided tours if we could set it up that way. We would like to use some of the cells for different displays, especially 20 and 18, because they are double in nature and provide us a lot more flexibility. I'm coming down the stairs from the 2nd floor to the main level or the street level, and it's the cell block. To recap, there were 12 cells upstairs and 11 on this floor, and I'm coming through. Behind me is the cell block area, and in front of me is what I call the living area and administrative area, the house that's tacked on to the cell block. Closing the door to the cell block area. Again, this is where the prisoners were received and processed and brought in through this small hallway, and where visitors could communicate with the prisoners. So I'm coming through into the main lobby. Off to the side is the processing area, and then the steps down to the cellar, and then over here is the stairway up to the 2nd floor, which was the living quarters for the sheriff, and we'll go up there in a few minutes. Again, this is the main lobby, and it fronts onto the door, which is the main entrance into the facility out on Pine Street. And again, we had the 2 octagonal windows, one on each side, and at one time there would have been an outer door, a metal outer door that was probably bars, quite heavy and so forth for added security. I'm going to go into the conference room. Which is the largest room on this floor. It's approximately 400 square feet, and we're thinking about using this area, this floor, and especially the rooms in the front for our genealogical and historical research center, library, and for the holdings of records. This is where the public would come in and do research. And we can also use this also for meetings for the board and larger functions, because it is quite a nice sized room. Plus the light is so good coming in from the north, and as you can see there are 3 large windows. This is to the west and this is to the north. Quite a nice room. Our surge, so we're back on camera now. Again, this room is very large and very well lit, and we can have a lot of possibilities for this room. I'm going to go through into the other large room on this floor, which was the warden's office. Again, notice the woodwork. Everything is very substantial, and the construction materials chosen were, of course, the native light-colored sandstone from the Millstone Creek down by Weston, and a lot of native white oak, I'm told. And again, down in the basement cell block area, we saw a lot of white oak from Mount Pisgah, because this is, in the conference room, is used by the maintenance workers as a woodworking shop, and they use that for the courthouse to make repairs. But again, the woodwork, everything is very substantial, very solid, and in very good shape, and we think it's going to take a good cleaning and so forth, and everything can be turned into a good usable space. Later on, this was the warden's office, quite substantial, 3 very large windows, plus the octagonal window. Looks out to the entranceway, or overlooks the entranceway. This room is not quite as big as the conference room. This is about 316 square feet, but still quite large. And then off in this direction is another office. On one set of plans, it's called the warden's bedroom / office, because there is a bathroom and a very large closet off of this room. You have 2 large windows, and one of them overlooks the courtyard. Heavy bars, and you can get a real nice look at the courtyard. The last person hung in this courtyard was Charles Johnson, exactly 2 years later than his brother Bigler, and that was on the 26th of July 1907. And this was a private execution. There was only about 30 people present. We're looking east to Main Street. And again, note the size and the shape of the windows and the woodworking around everything. Everything very substantial and very solid in construction. The bathroom area with a shower and toilet and everything. So again, as part of the remodeling that was done probably in 1950, a lot of these features were brought up to specification to meet the state codes, not only for the prisoners, but for the people attending the prisoners. And again, a very large closet. The stairs from the main level. In the cell block area, it was about 18 steps, but here you have 13 steps and then a landing, and then we have an oval window overlooking the small lobby area on the west side door where the prisoners could be brought into, and the processing area was over in this direction. So we have the landing, the turnaround, and then another 5 steps coming up to the living quarters area for the sheriff. We have some other interesting architectural features here, because this is where we have our people, and this is raised up, and you can look through and see the cell block area on the 2nd floor and the main floor. So this way the sheriff could keep track of things as they were going on in the cell block area. We also have a stairway up to an attic level. There is a 4th level to the living quarters. Quite a large storage area up in the attic. There are 8 rooms, I guess you could call them, in addition to this lobby area and the hallway. This is a small storage room, approximately 50 square feet. It's not rectangular because it does have this outside curve, but it's approximately 7 feet by 7 feet and could be used for something useful. Again, we're thinking about using this floor and this level for the museum. What we have on the street, or looking over on Pine Street, are 5 rooms behind me. This is the center room. It's 136 square feet. I'm sorry, it's 104 square feet. It's the smallest of the 5 rooms, and it has 1 window. The 3 interior rooms each have 1 window, and the 2 outside rooms each have 2 windows. You will notice on the walls no closets that have been boarded over. And this is an interesting feature in some of the 2 outside rooms. So the wall is fairly thin here. It's only 8 to 10 inches into the next room. We will go to the west. I call this, that center room is number 3, so this would make this room number 2. It's a little larger, slightly, but the window is not centered. And what you have is the interesting feature, what would have been doors here, and what these were really too, is this door went to a closet in this wall, and then this went into the other room. Corner rooms are much bigger, 150 square feet, and of course the added feature of 2 windows. This one to the west, this one to the north. Again, the nice woodwork and everything. And here you have, I guess, what would have been a doorway or a closet. So this was at one time later used, not for living quarters, but as an office space. So again, 150 square feet. So this would make a nice, very nice display room. Now we have a window off of the hallway, again for more light. But what we have in this room is approximately 80 square feet, and it's a bathroom with plumbing, and then a window overlooking an area. And this was where the entrance to the main level was, right underneath us. So again, you can see the type of construction used in this part of the facility. It's not your very heavy-duty concrete and stone walls and floors that you had in the cell block area. So again, the main lobby area, we've seen 3 of the rooms. I would call this room number 4, the 4th room. This is a little bigger. This is 136 square feet. Again, a window and then 2 doors, so we can do something here with these closet areas. But again, we have high ceilings and adequate space to put in museum-style display cabinets for the many displays. Now, in our present facility, we have about 11 display areas. So we have a lot of artifacts to bring here. Okay, this is our other corner room. 2 nice windows. And it's almost the mirror image of the northwest corner. This is the northeast corner. And again, we're talking about 150 square feet. So this is the 5th of 5 rooms that overlook Pine Street. And it has what I regard to be the best light in the facility. It is very, very, very well lit, just with natural light. Okay, behind us is a 6th room, and this is about 130 square feet, and I'll get away from the 2 windows. And at one time, this had been used as a bathroom area. Again, overlooking the courtyard. And then looking east onto Main Street. So this room's in a little rougher shape, but you can see, I think what they did is a consulting firm or a contracting firm did some tests, and so they made some holes to check on the construction, but this is the construction that goes on into the cell block area, or what I call the building proper, which you can see the big beams and the stones and so forth. This one would take just a little more work than the others because you can see some deterioration on the floor and everything. But again, this was the bathroom area, probably the primary bathroom for the living quarters. And I'm standing in the middle. Very well today. I must say that it's much cooler standing here because I know as I get up into the attic, it's going to be much, much warmer. The attic is approximately 1,000 square feet over the living area with a wooden floor and a high ceiling. You can see the stones built up a couple of feet, and then it looks to be in very good shape. If you recall from the beginning of the video, the roof is made with asbestos shingles, so that's a later modification. The floor is rough, but you can see the potential for dead storage up here for the overflow on the displays, so we can do rotating exhibits. But quite a lot of room. What's up here now are many, many boxes of books from materials that were involved in the prison library. This was the card catalog for the prison library. And many of the hardback books, novels, and history books, law books, and so forth that comprised that system. Most of these books were donated by libraries within the county. I've seen on the inside the Green Library in Towanda and Monroe and so forth. In the attic area over the cell blocks, which you have, I'm not quite sure what the floor is. I'm told it's concrete, and what you have on top of that is 8 or 9 inches of blown insulation over the entire cell block area. And again, that's about 65 feet long and approximately 50 feet wide. You can also see 2 of the chimneys in the front. There are 4 chimneys that go through the roof line, and then straight ahead you have what is the skylight area, and you can see the ventilation shaft for, I guess, the hot air to be ventilated in a fan up on the roof and vented to the outside as a way to control the temperature. We've been looking at the roof line here. You can see the lath and plaster, probably much more finished, and we estimate that right overhead here, perhaps the tower was constructed to take advantage of the load-bearing walls of the cell block proper, and then, as you'll recall, in the interiors of the cell block, even between the cells themselves, it was approximately 27 inches wide, and that would be of sufficient thickness perhaps to carry the weight of that round tower. And you can see here, this is between the rock wall all the way down. It's between the cell block area and then the living quarters and so forth. So I'm estimating that it's in here that you would have had your tower. You do have some very substantial beams holding the roof. And it's interesting to note straight overhead that something's been done with this roof line. What we see on the outside and right here may not have been the original roof. After the tower was taken off, perhaps a new peak was put into the roof line to shed the rain. But again, maintenance has been updated and so forth, and everything looks nice and dry, despite the fact that we've had several rains in the last 10 days. There doesn't appear to be any leaking through the roof. I'm told that the roof does need to be replaced fairly soon, and that would be all a part of, routine maintenance and upkeep. Guys, this afternoon's tour on the 30th of August 1997 of the old prison on Pine Street in Towanda. What you have here is a very substantial facility of approximately 11,000 square feet of usable space that we hope to turn into our Historical Society Museum and Genealogical Historical Research Center. You have 3 levels of cell blocks on a basement, main level, and upper level, and you have a 3-story living area with many rooms, lots of windows, very solidly and substantial, a lot of stonework and woodwork that I think that can be turned into something quite usable, an updated modern facility. Lots of light and everything. The structure has not been empty that long. You'll note on the wall we have a calendar, December of 1989. I'm told it is a little more than 7 years since they moved into the facility up in West Burlington. So even though there hasn't been heat in the structure for at least 7 winters, it still seems to be in very, very good shape. It's going to take a very good cleaning and some contracting work, plumbing, electrical, some thoughts on heating and so forth, and then we're going to have to do the contracting to have the painting and so forth. So a lot of possibilities, lots of room here, and we're quite hopeful for the future so that we can be in here by November of 1999.